Hi, welcome everybody to session 4 of Navigating Uncertainty. Before we commence anything, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all coming together for this, and wherever you might be if you're watching this. And particularly, I guess, paying respects to elders past, present and emerging, and just recognising the real wisdom that Indigenous people have to share, particularly at this point in time, around hope, resilience, forgiveness, and navigating some pretty uncertain times. The purpose of these workshops is to, as mentioned, we are moving in a time that's really uncertain and really unknown, and the purpose of these workshops is to provide some skills and techniques to help you move through that uncertainty and that really unknown space, that new territory, to do it so you feel somewhat confident. You're doing it in a hopeful way, an optimistic way, in a way that is able to be creative, generate new possibilities, new perspectives, but also doing it together. So you're able to do it in a supportive way. Hi, Brad.
Hey, I think I'm right to go now. So
excellent. So that's where we're aiming with these workshops. But I will hand over to Patrick now, who will put us through our paces, so to speak.
All right, thanks very much. I just have to take my self view off, otherwise I end up looking at myself and not you guys. So for those that haven't been at the earlier sessions, welcome to this one. We've been doing a series of applied improvisation activities. Or the applied aspects of it has been very good for communication skills and moving forward into the unknown. And today we're going to focus a little bit on active listening. Now, I understand that in the field that you are, in the health sector, in the community sector and not-for-profit sectors, you work with active listening a lot. So I guess I don't need to go too deep into it, because I would imagine that you're all very skilled anyway with this, but I do want to just approach it from my perspective and see how it fits into the other work that we're doing. But first, as always, we do a little bit of just a little warm-up exercise. This one I'm going to change it a little bit because we're going to be working in pairs a lot. I have been doing the brain gym, left brain, right brain sort of activity stuff, but this time I want to do something a little bit different. We're going to go into pairs, and we're only going to do it for not even a minute, Naomi, because we don't need much longer than that for each one. It's in 3 sections. The first section is basically, in your pairs, you're going to count to 3. Very simple. This is just the stepping stone. Naomi and I will demonstrate. We just cycle through 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 alternatively. So if I go 1, 2, 3,
1,
2,
3,
1,
2,
3,
1,
2,
3.
And once you get into the habit of that, just go fast. See how fast you can go at doing it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And just go as fast as you possibly can. And if you can't count to 3 and you stuff up, yay, good times.
Yeah, yay. Okay, I think we've just lost Jenny, so we might have a group of 3, but that's okay. I'll pop you into breakout rooms right now.
All right, cool.
There you go.
Hello.
Hi.
Back in the main.
Back in the main.
All right, I was in a breakout room of my own.
Sorry.
I nailed the exercise though. So was there a group of 3?
No, we lost one person who was having internet issues.
Oh, okay. So it's important that it's in groups of 2, just alternate. That's the very simple. Did anyone have any issues with that? Any problems? Should be fine.
It sounded like there was a time delay with us, so in terms of the speed being able to increase.
Sure. That is the case, but that's fine. Okay, so this time we're going to do exactly the same 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but instead of 2, we're going to clap. So it goes like this: 1, 3.
1, 3.
1, 3.
1, 3.
One clap. So 2 is replaced with a clap.
Okay.
Like your background there, Patrick.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
It's like you're about to do a dance or something.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's what's going on in my brain at the moment. You know?
I thought it looked like it was in the Matrix.
Yeah. Now, this is an exercise that's normally done right in front of somebody, so there will be a delay with this thing, but you should still be able to get some form of connection going. So this time it's 1 clap for 2, and for 3 it's a snap. So it looks like this: 1,
1,
1.
1.
All right, so one clap, snap, 1 clap, snap. If you've got people in your bubble at the moment, then you can try it with them after the session and you see how fast you can get. But really push, see how fast we can get. I think the delay might have
Okay.
an effect on this. I'm going back to my room on my own.
Flounder.
We're all over the show that time.
Yeah. I think we might have lost Jeremy. I'm not sure where Jeremy went.
Yeah, Brad was left on his own for a while. Then I joined him. All right, so did we find to get a sense of difficulty with that, or did it just the delay probably made it easy?
The delay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have people in your bubble, try that exercise with them, and but go through the 3 steps that I took you through, and you'll find that as you get faster, you start making more mistakes, and it becomes a lot more sort of fun. Lessons learned here. So a lot of time with active listening, you guys are fully aware of this, that we listen to respond rather than to listen to comprehend. And this is an issue that becomes quite important because we lose a lot of valuable information. About a third of the way through any conversation, our go-to default is to click onto, oh, I have a response to what I've just heard. And so we stop listening to the rest of the information and our brain goes into response mode until we wait for that person to finish. Then we start responding to the information that we heard well earlier. And we may have missed more important information because our brain has switched off. So this is a little exercise that's designed to focus on having to listen to the very end of a person's sentence before we respond. I like to call it sort of first word, last word, or last word, first word. Just to quickly demonstrate, Naomi and I will have a conversation. Naomi must listen to the very end of my sentence, and the last word that I use, she must use that as the first word in her sentence. And then I have to listen to the end of her sentence till I hear her last word, and that must be the first word of my sentence. So we're having to go right to the very end of the sentence. Hi, Naomi. What did you get up to during Easter?
Easter was excellent. I caught up with some friends and I ate a lot of chocolate, though that generally happens outside of Easter as well. But it was fun.
Fun is always important, and fun and chocolate go hand in hand.
Speaking of, oh my God, I can't do it. Hand me some more chocolate.
There you go.
That was really hard.
Yay. So yeah, you have to listen to the very end of the sentence and then formulate your reply based on the last word that your partner has just used. Doesn't matter where the conversation goes, just let it ramble if that's the case.
2 minutes or 1 minute?
Just 1 minute.
Okay.
So,
Go.
so if we managed to get that exercise done, what was how did you find it? What was the kind of things that were going through your head during that?
There's a bit of suspense, like waiting to see what the last word was. And yeah, you couldn't just jump in with like, oh yeah. Then we ended up like every time it's like, oh, how do I start a sentence with that word? Like that's not
Right.
not a logical idea.
Yeah. So we go into the thought process of the exercise itself. But because this is just the first time you've done this exercise, that's the natural thing that happens. After a while, the more you do this, the more it becomes second nature not to have to focus on what the word's going to be or thinking about the reply. It just becomes a more automatic based thing. And how did you find the conversation? Did it ramble, or did it just sort of struggle along?
I would have liked a bit more time. I
All right.
thought the conversation was quite interesting. Yeah, I think we could have, it was almost
Well,
that free
we are going
association.
to do it again, this time with a little bit more time. That was just the first to learn the exercise, to get a rough sense of feedback. So this time, as we do it, we don't necessarily have to use the last word. It can be a bit of a paraphrase. So you can go, if Naomi asks me a simple question, Naomi?
Oh my gosh, see, even having fun, it's come up with a question. This makes my mind go really blank. Okay, how did you do that thing behind you? How did you create that thing behind you?
So normally I would go, behind me, but this time I can paraphrase a bit and go, oh, this thing behind me here. Funny you should ask that, because it's I just downloaded it off the internet. So this time I'm not having to just use the specific word. I can paraphrase the last sort of 2 or 3 words, or the last sort of sentiment of the conversation, which cuts through what Sarah was talking about. That, how do I think of a word to say to that? Yeah. So yeah, give it a bit longer this time. Jeremy's just coming back in, so you can boot him out.
I'll wait for Jeremy to come back. Hang on, I'll just pause.
All right, good one. Is that everyone? No, we're one more.
Yep.
At least, yeah. Yeah, very good. So we managed to observe Brad and Jeremy, who nailed the exercise completely. How did you guys go?
That made it a lot easier to be able to paraphrase to start with, and you almost had time to think then yourself about how you were going to then take the next step. Yeah.
The first one is just the process in a very simplistic form, and that's more the applied element of it. How did you feel as the person who just spoke, to have that person start their sentence with something that pertained directly to what you just said?
Well, you felt listened to. You felt validated, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more connection established there, because they're getting this immediate response to something that you've just said. And how did you feel that the conversation went? Did you manage to stay on track with it?
Yes, I felt it was quite a natural flow. It was quite satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go with the general gist of the conversation, not just a specific word. It's like you could actually stay on track.
Yeah, and it's something that we tend to start losing a little bit, because our mind races with so much information that's going on. This tends to want to slow us down and not force us so much, but invites us to be a lot more attentive and be more focused on the person that we're listening to.
And I love that you're actually collecting back the same language and the same terms, because I know in a lot of client work, sometimes we're thrown into that interpretation piece where we're actually taking something they're saying and then adding a label, a diagnosis, we're interpreting it for them rather than just using their own language with them. And I think this really appeals to the narrative therapist in me.
Great. Naomi, did you,
Yeah, I was just going to say, similar to what you've just brought up, Alicia, is particularly now where, as I understand it, a lot of people are having phone contact with clients. It's not even video contact. So you're not even getting a face or any non-verbal, kind of signs from or indications from someone. So you really have to listen to the language. You really have to try and build rapport and connection in a very different way. And being able to do that through repeating words back to people, by not using our own assumptions and jargon and labels and a range of different things that would probably alienate people and make them feel not heard, because you're not getting all those other non-verbal cues and responses. It's even more important now to understand how to use language appropriately. But it's also how to listen for particular words, because they will also give you some really strong indication around what's important for people. And it could be exploring those words, whereas previously we might have made an assumption about what that might mean or what somebody meant by it. Whereas now we have the opportunity to actually unpack that a little more and understand what sits underneath it. So these skills are, I mean, they're important irrespective, but they're even more important now. So thank you. That would be helpful.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, these are skills that I use both for fun, if I, just because people don't realize I'm doing it, to see the kind of response that I can get. If in the days when you used to go to a bank or go out in public, I would use these skills. And in like family situations, just try it. Don't tell them what you're doing. Try it, and then afterwards say, did you feel anything different about the conversation that we've just had? And see if there's any element of attentiveness as a response comes from them. So that's one very simple exercise that can slow us down and make us listen different. And this other one is really about retention and attention as well. So you're going to ask open questions as opposed to closed questions. Closed being, I'm sure you know this, yes or no answers. Do you, have you, did you? These are questions that can just be answered with a yes or no. Open questions, the what, when, where, why, how, and who. What did you do? When did you do it? How, who? These are questions that require a response. So you're going to ask 10 questions to your partner that you'll be in the chat room with. However, once you've asked the first question, they do not reply. When you've asked the second question, I get you to answer the first question. When they ask the third question, you answer the second question. Naomi, I'll get you to ask me 10 or 5 or 6 open questions.
Okay. So what is your shoe size?
It's closed.
No, that's that's an open question. It will require a response.
It's a yes or no is a closed question.
A closed question is your shoe size 8? But what is your shoe size? I have to give information. Yeah? So ask again, and yeah.
So what is your shoe size?
So I don't answer that question.
What did you have for breakfast?
10.5.
What is in your backyard?
Bananas on toast.
What is your favorite color?
A wooden deck and some succulents.
And when did you last ride your bike?
Blue, steel blue, because it makes my eyes pop. All right, so after being asked the first question, you wait until the second question, answer the first question. Make sense?
You will need to take a moment to write down some questions.
Yeah, or just make them up, as long as it starts with what, when, where, why, how, who. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be pertinent questions at this point.
Okay.
Can I ask how many questions, and do we then swap over?
Yes, you do. Let's do, say, 10 or 15 questions and then swap over, yes.
So do you want a moment just to write down some questions and then we'll pop you into breakout rooms?
No.
No, you ready?
Very simple. It can be what is, who is,
okay.
When did.
Good.
Yeah.
We didn't actually get to swap.
Oh, you didn't get to swap?
We didn't either. We only
we'll go back in and swap. We'll just have a quick chat about it and we can go back in and swap for those who didn't. How was it for those that were having to answer 2 questions at a time? Brad, that was you?
Yeah, I think that it went slowly enough that I was able to lock in a brief response and then listen to what else was being said.
Nice. Yeah. And who was
I lost track. I got confused. I had to pause a few times and go, which question am I answering? So, yeah, confusing.
Yeah. And Sarah, Judy, did either of you get to do it?
I was asking.
Yeah. So who were you asking?
Me.
Me.
Elisa, Judy, were you in a room?
Yes.
And who did the answering?
I answered Judy's questions, and then I got to ask Judy a couple of questions. And at one point I asked her a closed question, got pulled up on that, fair enough. And at another point I asked her a question where the answer could have been applicable to the previous question as well. So
getting tricky now.
That's
Yeah. So really this is about retaining information as well. And that first exercise we were doing, we were just taking the one piece of information that was at the end of the sentence and responding to that. With this, we're having to retain information from the beginning of the first question. And how this affects us in conversations that we have is that during the beginning of a conversation, there may be some very pertinent information that we need to retain, but we also need to listen to the rest of the conversation so we can take on board all information that comes. And what often happens generally is that we will leave one of those pieces of information behind and only reply to one. So we lose the sense of retaining information during a sentence. And this is an exercise in a way to practice that kind of skill. So let's go back into the room and the other person can ask questions this time. And if you get good at it, just speed up with the questions. As soon as they're finished, boom, go. And if you get really good at it, then you can try two sentences, two questions apart, which is a real mind. But no, let's just stick to one for now.
Yeah. All right. You should be going in now.
And they will be coming back.
Yeah, right now.
All right. How did that go?
Judy had fun. Look at that smile.
Oh, where's Alicia? We just lost her. Yeah.
There we go. So how was that?
I found that very simple. I was kind of nervous, and then it was very simple actually I think I made a picture. I think I made a mnemonic, or not mnemonic, but like I made a picture of the last question so I could focus on that question. Then I could just go back to that question, to an image, I think it was.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. How did the others go?
Yeah, I probably put a bit of brain power into remembering the question before. So I guess half my brain was focused there and half was listening to the new question later.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask questions of Sarah based on what she was responding to rather than, so it was quite interesting for me because it felt like I just wanted to continue down that path.
Right, yeah.
Come back to the other question.
Yeah, well, it's an exercise rather than a conversation, but it's interesting. We had Naomi and I had quite an interesting discussion while you guys were doing that exercise, and just how it can affect us in conversation now, especially you and your work. Naomi, do you want to share?
It was along that line of people. When people are disclosing or people are sharing stories or people are sharing experiences, that often they warm into it, that what they say initially or what they say, it might take them a while to get to where they need to get. So it's being able to retain all of that, and also being conscious that, we often, not only is it about interpreting what people are saying, the different meanings that we might impose on a particular word, but it's also the intent, what we think is important, as opposed to what the people that we work with think are important. So there might be particular words that we pull out based on our training, based on our experience, based on what we've seen previously, that we go, oh, that's key, but not necessarily checking in and seeing that it resonates with the rest of the story, or not necessarily checking in with the people that we're working with. So it's that ability to hold so much information all at once and come back to it and explore it to make sure we've got the full picture and the right picture.
It's also quite important too, the emotional element that's attached. If somebody is having a conversation with you and they're angry at the first part of the conversation, the first part of the sentence, but then something switches and their emotional input changes, and you reply to the first part, holding on to the emotional connection of the last part, it's going to be misplaced. So not only are we trying to retain the concept of the topic itself, but also the emotional element that is layered with that. And these are things that we don't normally focus on. We just hear information and respond.
Look, I'm really sorry, but I have to go. I've got a guy's come to lop a tree, and I have to.
No worries, Judy.
We're wrapping up now anyway, Judy, but lovely to meet you, and thanks for joining us.
Lovely to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Okay.
So just before we just back off, anyone else has anything that they might want to add to that and how it may apply to the 2 exercises that we did today that may apply to your work?
I actually found it interesting that when I was asking the questions, I was spending more time trying to formulate what question to ask next, because you would hear a response and you'd want to, I think that we're all investigators really with what we do, so we want to delve deeper into what that response is.
Yeah, as again, this is an exercise, not a conversation technique. So it just allows us to exercise the brains for retention or the brain for response.
I think it just shows that we're all sort of sponges for information, and so as soon as we get a little bit, we want to know more. And as as counsellors and therapists and things, that tends to be where our natural mind goes. So
nice. All right, so thanks for that. That's just a little insight in the time that we have on active listening and how it applies to the sort of applied improvisation, or how it may apply to your work. So thanks for joining.
Yeah, I'll send you out the link, and we've got another couple of sessions in the next 2 weeks, another 3 sessions. So hopefully see some of you then. If not, you can catch up on the prior recordings on our YouTube channel, so you can get up to speed with all the sessions.
Can I ask a quick question? So thank you, Patrick, for today. I wonder if you have any resources like other YouTube things to watch. Like, I'm really interested in improv and its application into our work. Could you share some things maybe to Naomi, and Naomi could share it to us?
I certainly will. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.
Safe.
Bye.
Thanks. Cheers.